Erica from Crypto Soul. In episode 30 of the Erica Show, we have our first artist on the show as well as the second female guest with us, which is phenomenal. I am joined here with People Pleaser, 3D artist influenced by anime, video games, underground music, and traditional Asian art as portrayed on her Twitter page. And she's also known as DeFi's high quality meme generator. And that's the main reason why I'm a big fan of her. Thank you so much for being on the show. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on the show because I'm a big fan of your work and I'm very into NFTs these days. So yeah, and really enthused, very happy to talk to you. Before we go in, could you do a short intro of yourself and yeah, what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So for those who haven't seen my work before, I started working in the crypto space about last summer when DeFi summer started, and essentially I just make these ridiculous little animations that help bring awareness to DeFi protocols. And in March, my sort of claim to fame, at least in terms of the NFT world and stuff, was I had created this animation for the Uniswap V3 announcement, which was on Twitter, and then I later sold it as an NFT and donated the proceeds to charity, and then a DAO was created to purchase the NFT, and my life has blown up ever since. So
wow, what a journey for you last year till now, and you have so much going on for you. I mean, before you came into the DeFi space last year, what was like your main, I guess, activities before crypto BC? And how did you get into this crypto rabbit hole? I'm very curious.
I love the term BC. I'm gonna steal it. Well, so before I was still working in sort of doing 3D animation stuff, but I was actually working more for movies and TV. So yeah, I worked on quite a few like Hollywood movies and then also like feature animations. And was also working at Blizzard on their cinematics team. And yeah, so that was what I was doing for crypto.
Wow, yeah, such high quality. I mean, like, you guys should definitely check out everything she does. I just like fell in love because like usually I think a lot of the memes are quite, I mean, to be honest, it was before the DeFi summer, like it was not very high quality, to be honest. It was not like what mind blowing, but like since the DeFi summer, when you came out and all these, you know, this high quality memes, they just came out and blew our minds, right? I think our space got much more colorful since then. Before that, it was very just, you know, it was not very exciting in terms of the art and like what you see on the, you know, the screen basically. So yeah, it's just amazing that you came into space from an amazing background. And I really love your name, People Pleaser. I just also fell in love with that name as well. How did you come up with the name? Was it just kind of out of the blue? Did you create it after you found out about crypto, or was it there before? Just, yeah.
Oh, so it was before crypto. So I had created this art Instagram account, which is the same one that I use today. And well, I just thought that my real name was pretty boring. And at the time when I was lurking around Instagram, all the cool artists had cool aliases or names that they were using. And
yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe I should have one, especially because my regular name is boring and not unique. And then at the time, something that, I mean, it's still something that I struggle with today, which is just having a hard time saying no to people or just having people-pleasing tendencies is part of my personality. And so I just thought that it was quite fitting, and also that I wanted to please people with my art. So it was kind of like a play on words thing. And also it was kind of a spur in the moment too. I was like, oh, you know, when you're in the steps of creating your account and then they're like, okay, well, you need a username. And then,
yeah,
you know, I didn't want to like think about it and then come back to it. I was like, oh, I should just have one now. And then, so that was just what came to mind. And it's honestly the worst spelling. And it is that way because I originally wanted it to not have any vowels because it sounds really lame, but a lot of underground musicians have started adopting, you know, names that don't have any vowels or anything. But the version without vowels was already taken. And then so I just slowly started adding vowels back into it until it wasn't taken. And that's why the spelling is so terrible. And then people are always like, why do you spell it in such a weird way? And then people always spell it wrong and stuff. And I apologize to everybody. That's literally how it happened. And then I was like, oh, I can always change it later or something. But my life kind of blew up before that could even happen. So I guess that's just my name now.
Well, I mean, since I knew that name like from the beginning, I didn't feel anything like strange. I was like, this is super cool. And I didn't even, because I should have come up with an alias as well. And I'm not creative enough to come up with that kind of, because I'm also a people pleaser. I mean, I can be my job is literally to be that. And, I should have been more creative with my name. I just used a boring name, which is not what I should have been doing. But yes, thank you for the story. I was very curious about how you come up with the name. And I think a lot of people were as well. And let's talk about some of your art and what some of the core elements that define your art. It is very unique and very cool in terms of like all these visuals, and it just really blows your mind. But can you kind of maybe describe some of your core elements that kind of make what constitutes your art world?
Yeah, so I basically I've noticed in the art world, a lot of people kind of really stress on having a specific style or a consistent art style. And I think that was one of the things that I struggled with in the beginning, because I just think there's so much cool art and material out there, and I'm constantly getting inspired. And so even when I was making the DeFi stuff, I would often sort of experiment with different styles. So, when you watch my videos, it's not like they're all the same style or, immediately recognizable that it's, any specific person. And I kind of learned to just sort of be okay with that and, not follow sort of any. I think I had an interview with this Taiwanese journalist, and then he actually put it really elegantly in the article, which is not really from my words, but he basically was saying that taken from sort of extracted from what I said. And I was just saying that I mainly was just focusing on how the audience feels when they see my work. And that's the most important thing to me, and not necessarily that it needs to be a recognizable style. And in that sense, then the Taiwanese journalist was saying when that happens, basically the artist themselves is the style. And so I think maybe one of the consistent recognizable elements of my work possibly would just be the feeling that you get when you see my work. And so I usually go down two main routes. It's either very ridiculous and over the top and memey with a lot of Japanese influences, or it could be a very sort of trippy, psychedelic, cool experience. Those are the two sort of avenues that I strive to achieve in my work. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think being versatile and also flexible is also a very important aspect of being an artist, and also people pleaser as well. It's definitely something that works for a lot of people. And I think in a DeFi space where you need a lot of like mass adoption, and a lot of people who need to really like have attention to the DeFi space, they really need something that could really grab their attention and really attract them. So I think that really had a nice fit as well, because, you could create something that could really please everybody in terms of the eye, So when I saw the Unisol video, I was like, wow, the music was just, it was just holy, very nice and serene. Yeah, I really loved it. I love your explainer video as well. That really showed like the elements that, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I love that video and it really shows very well. People should watch it. It was a great interview as well. And, about the DeFi space, like it's a very complicated, space in terms of like learning about the, complicated concepts and everything. Do you personally participate in DeFi service? I mean, do you like participate in like, as DeFi investing or services, or just are you mostly involved in the art space in the DeFi aspect?
I definitely try to participate in DeFi as much as I can, but as you said, there's a lot of really complex concepts that need to be understood, which take time to look into, doing research, understanding, and then executing. And so I don't always have that time to do that, really.
Sure.
And so, especially recently, and because it's a bull market, so I've been hodling a lot more than sort of moving things around. But definitely, when L2 came out, I was like, ooh, what's Matic? And then, poked my head in there, looked around, did some stuff, I think it's cool. There's so much more that I need to learn about it as well. But yeah, so I try to dip my toes in DeFi every now and then. And it helps me too, because when I'm doing my work, I need to understand what I'm making animations for.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the best way to learn is just being hands-on, right? Instead of, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when, you did the collaboration with Uniswap as well, I'm sure you had to do a little bit of research on like what they're about, like, because it's very intricate piece that you did, right? I mean, the way you explain all the details that went into it and like what the elements, and it really kind of reflected that you did a lot of studying, like in terms of like looking into what constitutes the interesting elements of Uniswap v3, right? So I was very intrigued by that. And let's talk more about your work on foundation, right? So I saw your foundation page, and the first piece that just kind of caught my mind is how do you express this? X times Y equals K. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's Genesis piece on foundation is dropped on March 26th, I believe, and you collaborate with Uniswap. That's they explain a video that people should check out on Twitter. In terms of your perspective, what is your favorite element about this piece in general? Like, what did you have most fun with? Because there are so many elements to this piece. Yeah.
I think, first of all, I need to give a huge shout out to the people that helped me on this piece. I hired 2 of my friends who are also animators, because it was a lot of work that I needed to do. And also a shout out to Isaac Sleater, who composed the score for the piece, which he thought was so beautiful. So yeah, I was really lucky to be able to work with them on this piece. But my favorite part was, it was my vision, and they helped me sort of like execute that so beautifully. Because it's not always easy when you're trying to describe, this is the feeling I'm going for, especially for music, right? I'm not even, sometimes I don't even know the right technical terms for the music, but I would just be like, okay, this is, what I'm thinking, and it's a very collaborative process. So I actually think, and also a collaborative process with the Uniswap team as well. Definitely just talking to them. And then I think a lot of them on the team are so forward thinking, especially the designer Khalil had been very helpful in the process as well, in terms of brainstorming and bouncing ideas off of each other. And so I think it's almost like being a director or something. And that was really my favorite part of it. Obviously, I did most of the animation and stuff myself as well, probably I'd say 90% of it. But the actual doing the animation and stuff was, I think, pales in comparison to the whole process of collaborating and sort of directing and having a vision, and kind of seeing that vision from conception being carried out to the end was, I think I was just telling people that, because everybody always sort of focuses on the NFT side of it, and that, it sold for this much. But actually the happiest part of this whole process to me was the day that Uniswap posted the video, because at that time we hadn't announced that it was going to be an NFT or anything. They just posted it, and just to see everybody's reactions on Twitter, that was just my favorite part, I think. Just reading everybody's comments and then people trying to guess what it means and stuff, and just knowing that my animation had an impact on people, that it made people feel things, was the happiest part for me.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, because I remember that day when it came out, and I think a lot of people's expectation towards Uniswap v3 was off the roof, right? And then it just came out of nowhere. People were like, wow, because it's so Yeah, I mean, like, I think a lot of people fell in love with it. And I also tried to kind of see the elements in it because it didn't really, in the beginning, it didn't show like what were in it, right? You had the explainer video afterwards, right? So yeah, it was just a nice guessing game with a lot of people like, wow, I'm sure this unicorn, came out of because of this and this and this. And yeah, there was a lot of guessing involved, but I think it was, yeah, I mean, to really, I would have been really excited if I were you as well, and thrilled to see the response from people. But I cannot help but mention that 100% of the proceeds of the NFT, right, was donated to the charity supporting Stand with Asians movement, which I thought was really timely because that was the time when it just kind of blew up in the States, right? And I think it's a really meaningful way to show your support for the Asian community. I mean, of course, you want to share your support for them, but I think, did you think of in the beginning, or was it like a very timely action that you just thought of? What was the message you wanted to spread across, basically?
So it was definitely around that time, NFTs were blowing up, and even before that, I was getting a lot of, also because I was so busy and consumed with just working with DeFi protocols and on those animations, and so I was getting a lot of messages actually from people saying, oh, why are you not selling NFTs? You totally can, like you could probably make a lot of money if you started selling NFTs, because I guess at this point I had already gathered a little small fan base within, especially within the DeFi community and stuff, right? And so I just thought that, but at the time, when NFTs are blowing up, there's a lot of focus around artists, just like, oh, this artist can sell like this much, or just it's so like so wealth based, and all about like, oh, me, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just kind of felt like there's definitely people out there who can also benefit from this kind of crazy movement or boom that's happening in the NFT space. And being that I was already fortunate enough to sort of ride the bull run up until that point, so it's not like NFTs had to be my main source of income or anything. And so I thought that if there was anything that I could do, for example, it would be really cool if I could do a charity fundraising for using NFTs, then that would be something that I'm interested in. And then so I kind of had that idea, and then I brought it up to Uniswap team, and then they were obviously very supportive. They were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, you should totally do it. And so yeah, and then at that point we were actually thinking, oh, whether it should be multiple charities. Well, I guess it depends on how much it ends up selling for, right? And then so we couldn't really decide at the time, but then around it just was so timely that around that time also the all the Asian hate crimes were happening in the US, and I was hearing about them and seeing them on social media. So then I brought up to them that, oh, well, this is a cause that I care about personally. And actually it was, I read so after the Atlanta shooting, I had seen an Instagram post from one of the victims' sons, and then he just wrote on Instagram about just how he's just really having a hard time dealing with the situation. And I don't know, it's just really sad. Of course, when I read it, I Venmo'd him $100, and then posted about it on my Twitter, and then actually a bunch of people were like, oh yes, I'd also be interested in donating to this guy because it was really sad. And I just thought there has to be something more I can do. And then so that's when I kind of made the connection. I was like, oh, well, this NFT probably could do much more than just me donating $100, right? And then so yeah, the dots kind of like connected together at that point. And then so I brought up the idea, but then it was kind of like so yeah, and then Jeffrey Huang from Cream, so he actually introduced me to, because he said that he actually knows somebody who is sort of organizing the Stand with Asians movement in the US. So Stand with Asians is not a charity or organization themselves. It's just like a movement and a group of volunteers who care about this cause. And so he connected me with, and then it just so honestly, the dates kind of lined up perfectly, because on March 26th was the Stand with Asians movement, where they were gonna inspire people to take the day off work and sort of just raise awareness. And then so I got connected with Carl Choi, who was sort of running that whole movement. And then he kind of brought in a bunch of other volunteers, and then we sort of just started kind of like discussing, and then we were like, all right, well, let's just see how much it sells for. And then obviously we were all ecstatic that it raised so much money. And then it's been a very long process since. Actually. We just maybe a week or two ago finally decided on, so after basically all the volunteers, they created this application. And then so any sort of, if you're like a 501c3 in the US, and charity or nonprofit organization that either supports anti-Asian hate, or I mean, we weren't even limiting it to that anymore. It was if you're minority representation, then you're welcome to apply. And then the group of volunteers with myself, we would go through the applications and read about it, and then see sort of, and we kind of also wanted to support more grassroots charities as well. We thought a lot of big sort of nonprofit organizations already have the recognition and access to help, so maybe they don't need it as much. So those are kind of the criteria that we're going off of. And then we finally decided on 24 charities, which would each receive $25,000 grant. So yeah, that was a really cool process. And yeah, it's sort of just been going on behind the scenes for the past like 2 months, honestly. Ever since the sale happened.
Wow, that's such a long process, but it's very meaningful. 24. That's amazing. And what the influence that you had on these like groups and to the Asian movement, that's just amazing. And I think the perfect timing as well. That really helped a lot in this process. So yeah, I applaud you and the volunteers for doing this, and it really means a lot to all of us. And I think I've seen a lot of like Twitter threads where they ask for, or they're asking for like these NFT, I guess, donations to charity, like the proceeds. I think a lot of people are starting to do that, and maybe that's spearheaded by you, or it's been influenced by you as well. So yeah, thank you for doing that for all of us. And I mean, another piece that you also contributed was Apes Together Strong, and that's another fun name as well. How did this piece come about? What does this represent? Can you just tell us a little bit more about this piece?
Yeah, so this piece was actually to commemorate a talk that I did on the NFT Summit with Andreessen Horowitz. And so it was a cross-hosted NFT Summit between A16Z and the Center of Blockchain Research at Stanford. And so Ariana Simpson from A16Z originally just reached out to me on Twitter DM and asked if I would be interested in speaking with them at the summit. And then I was like, of course, I didn't even know anything.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I mean, they had a super cool lineup, and was just happy to go on and sort of talk about the whole process. And also, because around this time, pplpleasr DAO was building some really cool stuff as well. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to also educate people about the importance of DAOs, and also what pplpleasr DAO is doing, and maybe how they can set an example. And so that's kind of what my talk was about. And then similarly, like halfway through the sort of discussions between myself and A16Z, they were like, what about if we also did an NFT, just to sort of, because this is an NFT summit, just to sort of commemorate the event. And then obviously them knowing my sort of history, they were like, you're welcome to, just raise it for charity if you want to. And then I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And so the piece itself is sort of more representative. I talked about this in my NFT summit, and I actually didn't really explain it on my Twitter, so I feel like most people probably don't even know. I mean, other than just thinking that it looks cool, I don't think they actually really know the meaning behind the piece, which is that because my presentation at the NFT summit was about DAOs and basically the concept of how, why DAOs are so important, because they comprise of people of different, of diverse, talent and skill and knowledge, and they come together and achieve even greater things. And with sort of our current human needs and sort of society becoming more and more complex, I think DAOs are sort of the way of the future, because it's becoming so complex. You can see this already happening quickly with crypto is becoming so complex that it is starting to exceed the capabilities of any individual person to be able to achieve and understand. And then so that's why DAOs are so important. And so that's kind of, and then also that the ethos of the DAO, for example, in Pleasr DAO, they care about things that matter with technology, privacy, but also things for a good cause, right? And I think that's like important as well to sort of not get lost in this industry of this lucrative industry where people are sort of thinking about, you know, the self, whereas taking pride in collectivity and thinking about the people, I felt was an important ethos to myself and also Pleasr DAO. So all of this was sort of represented in the NFT in the sense that the girl in the mask, the reason why she's wearing a mask is because sort of I have like these two facades where you know, just in general to people, I'm people pleaser, but I do have sort of my other identity that's like underneath that I don't really show to the outside. And then sort of leading the way of this giant mecha ape, which represents, I guess, any DAO, but in this specific case could be Pleasr DAO. And I sort of also explained that because, you know, like these giant sort of mecha suits are usually controlled by multiple people, or it's built by multiple people to come together as like a larger force to do better things. And so that's kind of what the piece kind of represents. And then I've also built in subtle references to A16Z, like there's an A on the helmet, and then on each of the fingers and toes, there's a Z on one of them, and then on like minus the thumbs, I guess. So then there's 16 letter Z's in total in the piece. And then also because the talk happened on May 4th, which is Star Wars Day, so there's a very, very, very subtle Death Star in the sky of that piece as well. Yeah, so that's kind of what the piece represents.
It's like a riddle. I mean, you just kind of find these little pieces and just have fun with, like, you know, putting the pieces together. That's really cool. Wow, thanks for explaining that, because I'm gonna look into more like in specific after this interview, because it's I admire your, you know, ability to really put that into expression and to put into art, because I mean, I can never do that. And it's really interesting. Wow. And also for this piece, the proceeds were committed to charities supporting autism, right? And did you have a conversation with A16Z as well with this cause as well?
Yeah, I did. It was purely my decision, actually. And I don't know how politically correct this is, but because it's, you know, comes from good intentions, but obviously, you know, crypto Twitter, and sort of also even like on like Wall Street Bets, you know, the subreddit and stuff, people often talk about donating to autism. It's a common theme on crypto Twitter and those subreddits. And I just felt like that would be sort of like a fitting cause to fit the demographic of people that are sort of viewing my work and seeing it. And, you know, I'm sure they wouldn't take it the wrong way. And in fact, I actually got messages from people saying, oh, you know, I am really grateful that you donated to this cause. I have a cousin who's autistic, and, you know, this is really great. So I think, hopefully, you know, nobody found that offensive. It's
no way.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I just wanted to hear like the backstory, because like, you know, usually there's a meaning behind like deciding this like great cause. And so I've never, charity is a big thing. I mean, it's putting into mind something that's, you know, donating money. It's like a huge initiative. So I just wanted to hear the behind story. And as you mentioned before, Pleasr DAO it came out of nowhere. It's like a big force now, and I'm, you know, it won both options for both pieces on Foundation. And I wanted to hear more about how did this thing come about? How did this DAO come about? Who initiated it, and what does it enable? Basically, what does it symbolize? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So I obviously wasn't involved with it all the way up until way after my initial sale of my Uniswap NFT. But at the time, I think it was when the auction was going on, Leighton Cusack had made a tweet about, he quote tweeted my video and then just asked if anybody wanted to create a quick DAO to bid on this. And then a bunch of people, I guess, jumped into that Twitter thread and said, yes, I'm interested. And then they created a Telegram group. And then Jameis, who is now, he's Jameis on like just underscore Jameis, I think, on Twitter. He was now the chief pleasing officer.
I love that.
DAO, had DM'd me and said, hey, I think at the time, because they were pooling funds using Gnosis Safe, but then I think Foundation didn't support Gnosis Safe. So then he kind of reached out to me to just ask, hey, do you have any contacts at Foundation, because we're trying to use Gnosis Safe to bid on your piece. And then so that was when I first heard about it, because I hadn't actually seen Leighton's tweet at that point. I heard about it initially from Jameis, because he messaged me saying this was happening. And it kind of blew my mind, because of course, like you said, the Uniswap B3 announcement was already a highly anticipated event. So likewise, the video accompanying it obviously carries a lot of significance as well. And while my intentions were purely just to raise money for charity, I did think that it is kind of weird, the concept of one person like owning this video, you know what I mean? It's because it's such an important video to the whole DeFi space, or of 2021, I would say, because it's probably one of the most anticipated announcements of the year. And so for that to, it's just funny that it'd be like, you know, somebody owning a really, really heavy piece. But then, so it totally blew my mind that it could potentially be owned by several people, which was the DAO that they were creating at the time. And but that was as much of the thought that went through it. And I didn't know who was going to win. You know, I didn't know how many people they were going to get. I didn't even know if it was going to be an actual thing, because at the time Jameis wasn't sure, right? Because he was like, oh, Gnosis Safe isn't supported by Foundation. And then he messaged me back and he's like, you know, and then I was so busy that day as well. So and then later I saw his message again. He's like, never mind, we're just gonna wing it and then do it based on trust for now, and then figure it out later. And then so I didn't know how organized they were, or whether or not it was even gonna work out. But yeah, I mean, they really surprised me when they came in, because they didn't bid until the very end too, as most experienced whale bidders do, actually. So they knew what they were doing. But yeah, they didn't come in until the very end. So I didn't even think that they were going to end up bidding. At some point, I just thought, oh, well, yeah, what happened to that DAO thing? They probably, didn't, it probably like fell through or something. And then, so yeah, when everything happened at the end, it was just so crazy. And then now, I mean, so obviously the DAO, this Pplpleasr DAO, which they like named after me, which is really funny, comprises of a lot of really prominent members within the DeFi space as well. And so the lineup is very stellar, and it's great that they're actually so coordinated and sort of so aligned with their ethos and their goals, and, you know, just targeting each piece that they go after. And so it's really cool to see them, because I then was added as an honorary member after the sale. And then, so I actually got to witness what was going on with when they were bidding on the Snowden piece, for example. And it's really, really cool to see them using this technology and sort of, but also requiring human coordination under time pressure, and then signing multi-sigs within time to bid on. It's just, it was crazy. And this was like 5 a.m. In Taiwan for me at the time when the last minutes of the Snowden auction was happening. It's seriously more exciting than watching, I don't know, any like football game or something. And so, yeah. And then so I think they are all kind of sort of like aligned in terms of, like I said before, going after pieces that have either significance in DeFi or crypto history, or internet, you know, privacy and technology, as well as having this, you know, aspect of being part of a good cause. And going forward, their sort of plan is to also fractionalize these pieces. So I think their goal is to want to become kind of like the next internet MoMA. They're obviously, you know, very selective about what they collect, but they always collect pieces that they believe are going to be valuable in the future, and will have more value when they're fractionalized. So you can almost think of it as like, let's say there's an internet MoMA in the future, and then were people just visiting the museum, but then, we see the Snowden piece, but then we also own, us as visitors of the museum, but we also own a piece of this art, which I think is a really cool concept, and what they're building towards. And then also, obviously, being all the whiz kids of DeFi, they're going to integrate a lot of really cool DeFi mechanisms into the way they function as well. For example, you could stake your fractionalized pieces and then farm the governance token and return. It's just sort of on the shallow surface of all the things that they're discussing and currently building, and it's super cool to witness. So
wow. A lot of things to take in right now. A lot of elements going on. And I feel like you're at the forefront of like all these dynamic moving pieces, right? NFT, DAOs, DeFi. It's like all intermixing into one, right? Amazing cause. And I mean, it's really, wow. It's a lot. Even I'm exposed to a lot of things, but like this kind of hearing about it all in one setting, it's just really, wow, it's mind blowing. And the fact that Pleasr DAO is moving along very in an organized way. I mean, human coordination has definitely, I think DAOs have really changed a lot of the original concepts of an organization, right? And I think I think it's really mind-blowing and insightful to see the change in like how we interact, how we coordinate with collaborate with other people, diverse. So it opens a lot of doors for us, I think. And do you also plan to, I mean, I'm sure you're very supportive of DAOs, but where do you see this going? Do you see this like moving to different, areas, or just kind of blowing up in other, especially in DeFi space, or just I want to hear your thoughts on like how this is going and in terms of NFTs and DAOs and the intersection between the two. And
I think I'm obviously bullish on DAOs, and it's funny because, the way that this whole thing happened, I wasn't actually paying attention to DAOs much before either. And even until after my sale, I actually was getting some messages or, requests from even people in person saying, hey, how do I join Pleasr DAO? I want to join it. Honestly, at the time, I was just kind of like, why do you even want to join? They already bought the piece. Like, it's over, that was it. I thought it was like a one-off thing, but now I kind of, obviously did my research and sort of tried to understand why DAOs are so important and significant. And, one of the main things being transparency and efficiency. So it's basically a company, but one that can operate very quickly, expand quickly. And as we've seen with the Snowden piece, or also with my piece, fundraise extremely quickly as well, without the burden of having to go through bank transfers and sign-offs from a centralized party. It's basically just a startup but on steroids, right? And I think that's why it's so powerful and why people are paying attention to it, because not only can you fundraise quickly, but also and sort of like recruit members as well. And it's sort of like a very flat structure, which is headed towards sort of like the more idealistic, less capitalist sort of concept of the future and utilizing crypto technology, or just decentralization in general. And I think those are all really important elements, and why DAOs are so great in that sense. And it allows just people to move quickly and pursue goals very quickly. But I think the most important part is the sort of coordination aspect. So, just because you have a DAO doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be successful or fast moving in the space, because you need to have a group of people who are like-minded and want to achieve the same goals. And I think that's part of why Pleasr DAO is so like you can say successful, or just garnering so much attention in the space, is because they are a community of people who are very aligned in their goals and values.
And they're very, quick in terms of execution as well. I can really see them moving so fast and efficiently. And it's very, very good point that you pointed out. I'm actually part of a Han, which is a Korean NFT, artist supporting DAO, basically. And, there's been a lot of Korean NFT artists coming up in the scene. And I believe you have a piece as well, because you have the same piece, I think.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that piece. It has like the coolest title. And so I actually love Handao because I found out about it because somebody by the name of Monkey on Twitter had tagged me in a tweet asking, oh, People Pleaser, do you know of any Korean artists? Have you checked them out before? And I said, no, actually, I would love to. And then the Handao Twitter jumped into the thread and said, here's like a website we made with a compilation of all these artists. And I thought, this is great. This is a great way to honestly just discover artists. And so I went on the page and then I had a blast just scrolling through everybody's stuff. And, you know, had I not donated all my money, I would have had more money to buy more pieces because everybody on there was so talented. But definitely, so Ivory's piece really, really caught my eye at the time. I said, this is so cool. And so I bought it. And so I think that's great too. I don't know why more people should be doing this. It should exist for all different ethnicities, cultures, sub-genres of just people in general. It should exist for musicians, you know, like visual artists. I think, like that was just a great way for me to discover artists. And so, huge props to Handao.
Oh, shout out to Handao. Yeah, they're doing an amazing job. And I think like the Korean NFT space is definitely blowing up as well. And I was so pleased to find out that we were owning the same piece. I was like, yes, we have the same
Our
piece.
tastes are the line,
I'm so glad. Let's talk more about what you're currently working on, because I'm sure you have so many things going on in your life. But can you share, is there anything that you can share of your upcoming collaborations or anything exciting that's coming up? I'm sure some of it you can't really, expose to the public, but if there's anything that you can share, can you share it with us?
I am working on will be working on 2 videos upcoming, and one of them is with a crypto network. I won't say which one for now.
Crypto network. Okay. Very general. Yes.
The other one is a DeFi protocol, and that's pretty much as much as I can sort of take on my plate right now, and also some other sort of like smaller commitment projects that I've done. For example, I am collaborating with ENS, Ethereum Name Services.
Oh,
and
nice.
That's something that is interesting to me because, I'm less interested in just sort of just selling NFTs as art. I think that's not really like what my roots are and not really what I'm about. I love being sort of active and involved in things that have to do with crypto. And so ENS reached out to me. I thought it was really cool. They're to celebrate their like 4-year anniversary. They're basically doing a thing where, if you have an ENS and then you set a reverse record, then you can be eligible to enter a raffle for 100 editions of an NFT that I make. And the NFT itself will be, as usual, have sort of like a meaning behind it that is related to the actual thing itself, which in this case is ENS. And so that's something that I'm excited about. I think that's about all that I can. I feel like I spend the rest of my time just being like a DAO NFT DeFi evangelist to like
same. Yeah, I feel the same.
Just spreading awareness, always going on shows, podcasts, and then just talking about DAOs, NFTs. It's fun. I enjoy it, but I just joke about how I'm basically an evangelist now.
Yeah. We need people like you, but at the same time, I think it's just pulling in different parts. There's so much going on. It's just really hard to keep up at the same time, having to evangelize, right? Everything. It's just a lot of things to handle at the moment. And you have to work as well in terms of the videos. Yeah, I can totally picture your day. And oh, wow, that's very interesting about the ENS collaboration. I'll definitely people should look into it. And I really agree with the part where you said, you're interested in collaborating with the crypto world, like more so than like just focusing on the art selling side. I think that's really important. And so I'm really supporting for also the collaboration between like crypto projects and also with the artists who can like mesh in the talent together and like create something really amazing. So that's what should really happen in the future as well. More and more should happen.
Yeah. And I hope that it inspires more artists to do it as well. I mean, it will also benefit them to be involved in DeFi. I mean, who doesn't want to make more money?
Exactly. Yeah, you're definitely spreading the word. And after this interview, I'll make sure that a lot of the Korean artists also see this interview as well. And, so in line with this argument, like what role do you think artists can play in the crypto scene? I mean, is there like any message or advice you would like to give to these interested artists out there who are, aspiring, but they're curious about what's happening in the scene, but, maybe intimidated in some ways because it's too fast moving. It's a little, it's different from the traditional scene. So can you maybe give us some advice or a message to them who are interested?
I think just go into it bravely. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm also constantly learning myself. And just to be totally honest, half the time, I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. I'm just kind of riding the wave like everybody else. So yeah, try not to fret too much, I guess. It's just make sure that, we make enough money to survive. And the rest is just constantly learning and absorbing, listening to other people, what they have to say, being open-minded, and not being afraid to sort of challenge current solidified concepts or societal norms. And I think that's what crypto is all about anyway, which is also why I enjoy interacting with everybody and making friends with people in the space, because it indicates to me people who aren't afraid of thinking differently and just accepting things as how they are currently, and then thinking about ways that it can change or be different in the future. And there's so many moments, being in crypto and especially DeFi, that I'm exposed to concepts and stuff that where I hear it and I'm just like, what did I just hear? I don't even understand a word. And but I think that kind of fear or sort of the scare that you get is a good one, because it really challenges you to think differently. And I think that's just the most important part.
Yeah, thank you. I also agree, because like being in the outside, you just kind of are foreign to all of this. But then when you have a stake in it, when you kind of contribute a little bit, you really begin to understand a lot of the pieces, like they come together, and then eventually you learn and you become enlightened, I guess. I think a lot of bravery has to come into that as well. Last question. I think a lot of Asian artists, like Korean artists, well, there's a language barrier in terms of like the, coming into the mainstream, like I guess crypto scene, and so forth. How do you think that Asian artists can spread the word in NFT scene or make an impact, I guess, and have their wonderful art like shown to the community? What ways can they, move into further?
Honestly, I think art kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, you have to be tweeting, but when people are tweeting their art, for example, all of the artists on Handao, I'm not looking at, any language barriers or if they made any grammar mistakes in their tweets or anything. If you have cool stuff, you should just put it out there in the world. And I think that's the bravest thing an artist can do, because when you're sharing your art, you are opening up yourself to criticism and judgment of others. And that's why I respect artists so much. And as long as they keep doing that, I think, the great thing about art is that it is a universal language. Yeah. And but in terms of understanding the DeFi stuff, unfortunately, I don't speak Korean, so I can't translate it to fellow Korean artists. But even, when I was in Taiwan, I had noticed there is a huge growing sort of community and just people who are knowledgeable about it and able to sort of, I was so surprised that there's literally a whole community of people in Taiwan who are all just like purely speaking Mandarin and like writing in Mandarin, but they are writing, technical terms and everything, all the concepts about DeFi, they understand it and they know the space. And so I would imagine there's definitely similar things in Korea as well. And so probably look for those to sort of like familiarize yourself with the concepts. And in terms of trying to get your art out there, just post it. Post
on
it with
Twitter.
Post it with Korean hashtags.
I mean, we try to translate a lot of the content that they have in Korean, and I think that does help a bit. Hopefully that works a bit. And
so hopefully things like Handao could help with those kinds of stuff as well. Like have volunteers who maybe are bilingual and can facilitate onboarding. not just artists, but people who want to get into DeFi in general. I think it's a super cool concept.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a, very insightful talk, and I really enjoy connecting with you because, I've been just seeing your work behind the scenes. It's just, very cool to really talk to you in person and just hearing about what your thoughts are. And I think it's a very, very good example for other artists out there, aspiring artists who want to come into the space and really dive in. So thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you're crazy busy, but I hope to meet you in real person very soon.
Yes. I'd love to.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I hope to, thank you. Have a great day.
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.